Hello, everybody, and welcome into PB at Night. This is episode 38 for St. Patrick's Day, and I'm not wearing any green. Eric, I hope you can't pinch me over the internet.
No, you know what? I'm not wearing any green either.
Okay, well, I don't feel that bad. But yeah. As you probably already tell, Eric Andrews joins me from TechZany.com. Eric, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good, but I always want to call you Eric, and I don't want to call you Andrews because there's a famous Smoothie. You probably haven't. There's a famous TV personality that does a lot of sports, and I'm a pretty big sports fan in the States, and her name is Erin Andrews. So I always associate that, and then I'm like, wait a minute, there's no way that this could be his name, but it is, and so I always, I
haven't heard of her.
If I slip up on your name, that's why.
That's all right.
But anyway, gonna be fun. Tonight we're gonna be talking about kind of some podcasting gear and kind of how to get started. Because Eric, I think you have some intentions to maybe start doing a podcast as well.
Yeah, I want to get into that a little more. But I know a bit. Hopefully we can help out some people. Yeah.
And I get generally all of the emails that I get from YouTube and things. Like before we had a video up. They got like almost 40,000 views in like 6 months, and it was about your mixer that you use. It's the
the same mixer. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
I
uploaded one video. I think it was the unboxing, and it got a fair amount of views. I think lots of people are interested in this mixer. It seems to be a good buy for the price.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do a show like this, is because I want to have a show to refer to people, because I always have to type out the same thing, be like, this mixer's good for if you're doing so and so and whatever. Yeah. But yeah, whoops, wrong shot there. Like I said, if you're watching pre-show, or maybe I didn't say this, I used that mic, I think it was when you and I were talking earlier. I used that mixer for about a year when we first started podcasting. It was a great mixer, it's great. Yeah. I've heard it on YouTube. I was doing a lot of research about this, and this is a long time ago, and a lot of people were calling this the podcaster's best friend, because, it has 2 XLR inputs, I think.
Yep, it does. Yeah.
So that means, Jacob and I are talking about...
it does the job. It has the phantom power and everything, just perfect for getting started.
Yeah, so both of them are phantom power and everything, and the cool thing is, you have flexibility because you can do 2 people in the same room, but also you could have computers, which I'm sure you have a couple computers, at least one linked into it, so you can play music and stuff. So that's cool. But really, I think a lot of people like Mackie mixers, but I've always gone with Behringer because there's not much difference, and especially what we're doing, because, Eric, honestly, if you're recording like a record label or something, you're going to want high-quality sound, and the tiniest background noise or whatever, that's going to make a difference. And when you're live streaming, that's one of the things I said we're going to talk about is live streaming. High quality is good, but there's a certain point where, Jacob and I have talked about this, nobody's going to really know if you're using a 1080p webcam, 720p webcam.
Right. Especially if you're going through JTV or Ustream or something. If you don't even have the capabilities of doing HD, no one's really going to notice a difference in that.
Exactly. And that's one of the things you got to look at. And honestly, guys, first of all, I'm going to give you a little, Eric and I are going to give you a little insight on what you should start with, but I think you should take what we're going to talk about tonight as a basis for some of your research, because I've always said this, and every time people ask me about this, there's no way that my setup is the only way you can set it up. I mean, Eric's over there, he's got a microphone, he's got a mixer, and I can guarantee you he probably did something completely different than I did, but it sounds the exact same.
That's right. There's tons of ways to do it, which is nice, because then there's no one way to do it. You can do it whatever works for you. It's a good thing, because it's not that hard. It's easy to not mess up, if that makes sense.
But also, when you're sitting there, looking at a mixer, even that 802, that's not if you compare it to radio mixers or mixers that you would use in a studio or something, it's a small mixer. But, it's got, 30, 40 knobs on it, and you're like, all right, what do I do with all these?
Yeah, really, the bigger ones are pretty much exactly the same. They just have more lines, right?
Yeah, it's exactly the same, you're right.
It's
just
difference.
Duplicated, 3 or 4 times more. But definitely, if you're starting a podcast, I would recommend, Eric, you were kind of talking about this earlier, that how you were using a USB microphone, and you were having trouble because you weren't actually bringing that. You were jumping through some hoops to bring that in so you could, record your voice or whatever.
That's right. Unfortunately, you can't plug a USB mic into a regular old mixer, which sucks because a lot of people, when they want a microphone, they'll go to the store, maybe they'll ask around or whatever, and they'll end up getting a USB mic because it's so easy. You plug it in, no setup needed. You select your source or whatever, and then you're talking into it, right?
Yep.
Which is what I did, but then I realized, well, I want a mixer to be able to add in different sounds and be able to change some EQ settings and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. See, that's one of the things I've done. I actually, I did some research, and I knew that I had always wanted a mixer. But like you said, if you go to your Best Buy store, more than likely they're not, or you guys have Fry's or Micro Center or something like that, right? It's like a,
Yeah, just box, like big box stores, I guess you call it.
Yeah, kind of like the Walmart of tech, sort of, or some large chain. They're not going to have the stuff that we're talking about. They may have like Eric said, they'll probably have a USB microphone, like the Blue Snowball. A lot of people like those.
Oh yeah, that's very popular.
Yeah, a lot of people will use those, but also, this is something that you're going to have to kind of do your research. I would advise you to. Do your research. This isn't something, you could probably testify to this, Eric, that you can't really go to a store. If you find a store like a music store, you can't really test out the audio quality of a microphone.
Right.
So
there's only this one local music store, and they only carry like a few XLR mics. The selection isn't very big, and of course they're overpriced because they're local, right? Yeah. So I end up purchasing most of my equipment online.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things is you can, you can do your research and you can actually know what to do and what you're going to want to buy, but, in the same time, whatever. Pretty cool. Definitely, if you're looking to start out, I think the Xenix A02 from Behringer, that's a great mixer to start out with. And honestly, if you're going to do a podcast, I would definitely recommend going mixer-based because there's so many different ways that you can do it, and there's a good bit of different things that you can do, through people doing tutorials and things. So you can find that, I think Behringer's website is just behringer.com. I think most of these starter mixers that we would be talking about, $70, $80, so not that bad. I mean, when you get into audio equipment, you are going to be spending some pretty, it's going to be something that you're going to want to set aside some money for. But at the same time, you're not breaking the bank. So I'm trying to bring up a picture here so we can kind of give it some reference.
Okay.
Here's the 502. Here it is, 802. This is
the 502 is, I think it's similar, but does it only have 2 lines?
Yeah, it only has 2 lines. You're correct. I think only one of them is what you would call XLR, and the other one is quarter-inch based. So, right. But I think 802, I think you're right, is a great starting point. Because simply you can have 2 people in the same room, plus you can have 2 more line ins for computers and stuff, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right, for sure. There's even if you want to get complicated, there's a few different outputs. There's the CD tape input, there's the auxiliary return, whatever. There's tons of ways you can get many inputs and outputs, so it's nice to play around with and just get your adapters and figure out some stuff. You can always learn more about them just by kind of playing with it,
Yeah, and speaking of outputs, this is something interesting. If you're going to do like Eric and I are doing, which a lot of people do nowadays, is off-site podcasting, I guess you could say, through Skype. Logan and I do it before, essentially in a couple weeks. Jacob and I have done every single show that we've done over Skype. I mean, it's great because, Eric lives, a long way away from me, and we would never be able to broadcast with each other unless we had Skype or some other way to do it. And the thing you have to think about is every time you bring in a Skype source into your mixer, you're going to have to bring that back out into the computer, right? So they can hear what you're talking about, and so they can hear the other people that are on the panel. And once I show you guys this picture, it's a far cry from the 802. This is the mixer Jacob and I I'm gonna be purchasing for the studio. It is the I think it's the Behringer X22 22, so it's 2,
oh,
2,
yeah, that
2,
looks
2.
nice.
And it's a direct USB. Another thing we might need to mention is I think you've also just bought a USB interface. Really eliminates the machine noise and everything.
I did, right.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
It's the Behringer, another Behringer product. Of course. It's the UCA202.
I have something. Actually, it might be the same thing sitting on my desk. Anyway, it's made by Behringer. You can get these. I think mine was like $20. Somewhere around $20-$30.
Yeah, you can even get the little ones that are just like a USB audio card. I guess those wouldn't work as good. It's kind of better if you get one that's specifically made for mixers and stuff like that. But I guess anything would work. It really helps to run it through USB. Then you can have a second input port, especially if you're on a Mac where they only give you one input.
Yeah, that's something big because I think they combine them on the Mac, right? So you only have Yeah, that's something you'll have to think about or whatever. I think some of them. I think at least the MacBooks and some other. Maybe the iMacs, I don't know, anyway.
Yeah, I have one of the newest iMacs. They have one input and one output,
really?
which really you can just do the basics with, right? So I got this USB interface card.
Well, that's a good deal. So definitely, if you can go USB, honestly, we only go USB into what we call the stream machine.
Right.
So honestly, the main machine that you're going into. It really helps a lot of times to go with USB into a laptop because, if anything, you're going to get the most machine noise with a laptop because, same way with an iMac. I think you did the right thing going with a USB interface with the iMac because the iMac is a great piece of hardware, but it's essentially, if you think about it, it's almost like a laptop on a big scale because, everything is confined. You're not going to, only thing you can upgrade is like the RAM or something, right? If that. And so you're going to have that built-in sound card, and you want to get the audio processing out of the machine itself because you're going to get all the fans, you got fans going back there, you got all kinds of stuff that's going on inside of a computer, and that's just trouble for any audio recording.
Oh yeah, you want to get rid of as much background noise as you can.
Yep.
Not only like background noise of maybe other people or stuff in the room, but noise in cables. Sometimes you get bad cables that give you noise and problems with, especially when you get a mixer. Some problems I ran into, like with the gain controls, if you turn it up too high,
right, you're
going to get noise like that and everything.
Yep, you're absolutely right about that. Also, something else I've ran into is, so we have, if you get like really high scale, like I'm not saying that we're like really high scale, but once you progress to a multiple computer setup, you're going to have to, I've actually noticed this, and it's not always on this occasion. I think I was mismatching two different cables that were like, one was pretty high quality and the other one wasn't very good or something. It really helps to, if you're going to buy cables, buy them all from the same manufacturer and buy them the exact same cable. Because that way you can... Right. So, like, I had, like, one, like, 10-foot cable because I had to run it a long way, but then the other one was, like, a 4-foot cable or something. Mm-hmm. If you can, buy all 10-foot cables, even if you're only going from here to there. I know it's going to make a lot of, coiled-up cable, but at least you can guarantee that it's the same quality, it's got the same internal workings, I guess you could say. Yeah,
like, I have, when I purchased this mic, because, of course, the XLRs don't come with any cables. Right? Mm-hmm. So I bought one. I think it's a 25-foot or something. Although my mixer is just right there, right? It's just under, so I can control it. But yeah, I decided, well, if I ever move my setup around, move it into some other room or whatever, if you're traveling, right? Then you always have you don't have to buy new equipment.
Yeah. And one other thing that I've ran into, because this will be my third mixer I'm going to buy, and that's not optimal because by the time I've bought these other two mixers, I could have essentially bought the mixer that I'm gonna buy now, if that makes sense. So I spent like $100 on this mixer and $100 on the other one or whatever.
Yeah, but if you start small, you can always save up the money.
That's the good thing.
Even sell your old equipment if you really wanted to, and then do that.
Yeah, I was stuck in the because you're sitting there looking at it, you're like, well, this new mixer. I'm just getting into this. Maybe I might not even like podcasting, So many people start a podcast and then like, well, this isn't for me because I don't like talking. I don't like having a schedule, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think it is. I think you probably do want to go with that 802, maybe a 502. I don't know. But
it really depends. Like, are you gonna have? Is it your friend that's in your house?
Yeah.
Or that's coming over, right? Then maybe go with the 802 for sure if there's another person in the same room. Or if you're gonna do Skype, then maybe your best bet is the 502 if you really want to save some money too, just kind of as a trial, right?
Yeah, and also I think what I would say is set a price point and go as expandable as you can for that price point. That's
important too. Yeah.
So I mean, I could have had $200 set aside, or let's say that the mixer I bought, the 802, let's just say it's $70. It's right around that price range, and then you could go to like the 1204 or something, which it has more inputs. It's a better, you have room to expand, I guess. Let's just say that that's $100 or something. If you had the $100, go with the 1204, 1202, whatever it's called, because honest to goodness, you're probably going to expand. Because I never thought that Jacob would be. I never thought I would have Skype people on here. It looks like Eric dropped out, so we'll get him to call back in a second here. But I never thought I would have people over Skype. I never thought that I would be doing other than me, So that's something you got to think about. What's going to happen or whatever. Let me try calling Eric back. Shouldn't be a worry though. Anyway, that pretty much is it for mixers, I guess. But yeah, you can do things like we're doing. Here, there we go.
Yeah, oh, sorry about that.
No problem, dude. Anyway, I think first of all, unless you really are set on doing video, can you start your video back there, Eric?
Yeah, I was just doing that.
Oh, no problem. And I guess we could kind of move on. Eric, I think one of the things that we've always done, as I know you stream a lot on Justin.tv, and
yes.
Video is always, I always think video, if I'm going to watch a podcast, I want to watch it in video. I think it's more compelling. I think it's more interesting. You kind of get a more...
It's a little more personal, There's that feel of that you're actually listening to someone or you're actually talking to someone,
Yeah. And I think that's what makes, TV, a lot more popular than radio.
So popular, yeah. Well, there's even with the radio where you do just listen to people. Sometimes it's good for background. Like if you're doing maybe a show, and you could release an audio and video version because there's going to be those people that don't want to, or maybe aren't capable of using all the bandwidth to stream the video wherever they happen to be on their cellular phone or whatever, or their smartphone, right?
Yep.
So an audio version is always good too to release.
Yep. See, that's what we do. We record audio and we release them both. But honestly, in my opinion, I think we always market video as more of our thing.
Right. I agree. Yeah, that makes sense.
So right now, I think Eric, you're using some sort of webcam.
Right. Yeah, it is an HD webcam. I don't think Skype is broadcasting over HD.
No, yeah. That's one of the things you have to. Anyway. It's really quality. It doesn't really matter what the resolution is, as long as...
Yeah, I'm thinking even if you have, for a webcam, what are you thinking, maybe $35, $40 if you want just sort of a basic one?
Yeah, and nowadays, especially like back when I was starting this, you were having to, this camera was like $120. It was the Logitech 9000. It had just come out, and now these are way these are way outdated. They've got like...
Oh yeah, they go down in price quickly.
Yeah, and now you can get a $50 webcam that looks probably as good as this one that I'm using.
That's right.
And you can go all the way up to, Jacob just bought us. This is an interesting thing. We'll probably be talking about it on Gadget Gurus, which is another show that we do where we talk all about gadgets. Pretty cool. Jacob got this. Have you ever heard of a CMOS sensor? It's what's inside like some... it's just the sensor that Sony uses in their camcorders and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I kind of remember him talking about that a little while ago. It was, what was it, a little USB camera, right?
Yeah, it's a USB camera, but the cool thing is it's these little USB cameras. I mean, they're good for just setting them up and doing this kind of stuff. But the sensor is so tiny. I mean, you can just look at it. It's smaller than whatever. But
right.
What he did, it's essentially the bare bones of what a video camera would be. And it has a USB output on it, and it comes with software that will allow it to work with, Wirecast or Windows.
Or Skype or something like that, yeah.
Yep. And Carla's saying...
how much do those go for, do you know?
Now, this is an interesting thing because, like we said, you can get a very nice webcam for about $100. $100 is like you're going to get the best webcam out there, one of the best. And then if you want to go to, say, Jacob and I were discussing this. Let's just say I know a lot of people you can use a FireWire camera, which, that's going to be about $500, $600. And that's just...
Unless lots of people use them because they already have them, but then you might not get HD because it wouldn't be new.
Yeah. And, Carlos mentioning a lot of computers have, especially the Macs and stuff, they have great eyesight cameras that, they look great, You kind of have to watch out what you're fooling with PCs, because sometimes they'll just throw a webcam in there and be like, hey, we got a webcam, you can't see anything, but,
Yeah.
But then if you want to go up, I know a couple people use, like Canon video cameras, like 1080p, high definition, whatever. Right. But then you're getting up, essentially, if you're going to do that, you're going to pay minimum probably $800,000, because not only that is you're going to have to input into your computer. That's the thing
there's the HDMI that's becoming more popular, right? And then you need one of the cards.
Yep.
I think it's a PCI Express or something.
Yeah. There's different ways. You can get a USB capture, but whatever.
There's tons.
But this is kind of a hybrid in what we're doing, because it has, essentially, I guess you could think about it, it has the graphics processing that would be done in that card, that would be that converts it to a signal that your computer uses from HDMI.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of done inside the camera per se. So it uses USB 2.0, which is actually faster. I know it's faster than FireWire 400. Might be, anyway. It's plenty of bits or whatever per second to do very high quality video.
Right.
And essentially, it's this thing that he paid. He paid $300 for the camera, and then it's kind of like a DSLR. You actually have to buy lenses, but he got essentially you could look at paying $500 for this and going directly into your computer. So you pay $500, you say you get a lens and this camera or whatever, and you get great video. That's we've been podcasting for almost a year and a half, so we've grown a lot. But honestly, I would say if you've got a Mac or something, just use your eyesight. And if you want to go a little bit more than that, you can get I think Logitech has some great cameras.
You mentioned the eyesight. On the new Macs, they're very good.
I think they're actually HD now, right? I think on the new iMacs,
I think they are a higher resolution. Maybe not quite HD, but
not.
A higher resolution than the old ones. Something to worry about if you're going to use the eyesight is try not to use the internal microphone, right? You probably see it right there beside your eyesight camera, but it's not the best to use for podcasting, I don't think.
And always remember this, and we still abide by this rule, even if we are going to spend, $400, $500 on a new camera that looks great. Essentially, if you're doing a I don't like to, first of all, I think you know why we don't like to call it podcast, is because everybody's like podcast, iTunes, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, audio always takes priority above video, in my opinion. Especially
it does.
Because I guess it's cool to have. I guess it's pretty cool to have video, but if you have crappy audio and your video looks amazing, the show's not going to be any good. Because
you have to think about it. Like, how's your show going to run without audio or without video?
Yep.
Well, it'll run without video, right? Without audio, you're not going to do much good. So really look into the whole audio setup and what you want to do there.
Yep. I guess you definitely want to go, if you can, XLR-based microphones. You can go some of the ones. I have one that's it was like $20 or something. It's actually those 1/4 inch, the really long, that's why they're called 1/4 inch.
Oh, like a dynamic. It would be a dynamic mic then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, if you go higher into, if you're going to pay like $100, $200 for a dynamic microphone, it's going to be XLR-based. But honestly, go with I like condensers. This is what Eric, I think you have an MXL 990, but it's a little bit it's got a little bit more features than mine does.
It's just because it's the newer one. It's the 990S. Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's not much of a difference.
Same thing, yeah. Pretty cool. I like these mics. Eric, I think you just got yours today, so you I mean,
I did. This is
mean,
my first official test with the recording and
that's
the
cool.
whole show, so I hope it goes well.
Sounds good to me. But anyway, I really like these mics. I actually found out about these guy. Eric, we've talked about him before. Jupiter Broadcasting. They're pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, I've checked them out a bit. I haven't actually ever talked to them or seen their live stream. I've seen the pre-recorded videos and stuff. They do some really interesting stuff. They have some good ideas for video podcasting. I like some of their styles.
And I think another thing is after you do all your research on, I really wanted to cover this because most of the time I get Logan saying MXL mics are top notch, and the thing I like about MXL mics are they're pretty cost efficient too. Because I think some of them they just mark them up for the name. You know how that goes. You just
this is my first MXL, but a friend just got the MXL S10 or something. It was a ribbon, one of their purple ribbon mics. So it sounds really good too.
Yeah. Anyway, essentially, I would recommend MXL. They've got mics that range from like $40. These are kind of mid-range for them, but honestly, I think they sound amazing for how much you pay for them. And then
they sound professional. Like you could, if you had a whole band, you could record some nice vocals with these, even if you wanted to.
Yeah, and I wanted to cover this. Maybe I might do something later on how to brainstorm my ideas and things, and how to figure out if a podcast is going to work or something. But I wanted to cover this from a hardware perspective. Because I get a lot of questions about it, and honestly, it's a good. This will be a great show to have for reference if somebody's like, "Hey, how do you do your podcast?" or "What would you recommend?" or whatever. Which I know a lot of people aren't going to sit through a 25, 30-minute show, but whatever. That would be pretty cool. Logan's saying that he's got the USB 77, and that is, I think that USB microphones have. We talked about this, but USB microphones do have their placement because if I know Logan usually uses his for like voiceovers and things like that. Not really for podcasts, and he uses it to talk to us on Skype sometimes when he's on our shows. So if you're just planning on doing that and participating in other people's like TeamSpeak or something like that, that would be USB microphones are good, but you just gotta kind of analyze what you think you're going to be doing and.
And you know what USB is good for also if maybe you're upgrading from USB to a mixer and stuff. It's good to have one maybe for portability too if you want to do something out of the house, right?
Yep, that's actually how Jacob does. Jacob, occasionally Jacob will go. Like we had him from CES this year, go live for us. He was on the show floor. Yeah. It was pretty cool because he just had a webcam and it wasn't that great because he was going over 3G, so it was kind of laggy. But,
that's expected in CES. There's so many connections going through iPhones and everything.
Yep. Yeah. But anyway, he had a USB audio device, and a lot of times they make a USB MXL 990. It's just a USB version. It's a little bit more because you get the whole USB thing, and you don't have to have a mixer. But anyway, pretty cool. But yeah, the final thing I was going to mention is not only checking out. Strictly audio, doing audio research and video research about different people. YouTube is a great place to go because essentially, if YouTube is to the point now where if you have a product, especially if it's tech oriented, and you're thinking about getting it, you search that on YouTube and you're gonna get a review or an unboxing or something about it, which is great in my opinion.
Oh yeah, there's tons of reviews. There's probably multiple of every product, right?
Yeah.
Even the new ones, lots of people get their hands on all of the new products. Yep. So you can find everything.
But when you're doing hardware research, I would also encourage you, and I know Eric does some of this, and I do it all the time. Checking out some of the people who already do podcasts and kind of looking at their setup because essentially that's kind of how we're molding our. I keep referring to it as our new studio. It's really just a new setup in a different location. Looking at what they do. And I definitely do not encourage, copying them, but I'm a total supporter of grabbing things from that are successful. So I started there or something. I heard the guys over at Jupiter Broadcasting using these MXL 990 mics. I just got them because they sounded good and they recommended them. And I think Leo Laporte is a great testament, but he used, you got to realize he does this for a living.
He uses professional stuff. Like he's using I think his main mic it's the PR40 from Heal, right? The gold model. That's kind of rare. So it's hard to take suggestions from what he uses because it's overpriced for the average consumer.
Yeah, and there's tons of podcasters. If you look around, I'll just give you a couple ones. Logan's just typing money signs here. You got Twit. That's a good one to kind of, be like, well, that's a good one that I've always looked at and say, he does it this way. How do I do it on a cheaper budget?
That's right. Yep. Just kind of base it off of what they do and how they have it all set up.
Yeah, another great guys. Our new studio. I'm going to tell you guys, and it's going to be hard to visualize until we get it set up. We're fusing together some of what Jupiter Broadcasting does. So Jacob and I will be sitting at one table. They use like a green screen and stuff. That's pretty cool. They have one. This is how we're gonna do it. Is we're gonna have one camera, that really high quality camera that Jacob just purchased. And what they do is, Eric, you probably know this. And we use a program called Wirecast, which is it's $4.99, $500. Definitely not the cheapest, but when you compare what Wirecast does and what the other products that do the same thing do, it's you can definitely say I can verify doing this or whatever.
I think other companies that try to make the same thing, it's hard to make competition for it.
Yep.
Like there's this one software called one piece of software called Vid Blaster.
Vid Blaster.
I heard it.
Yep.
It wasn't the best though.
We actually, we toyed around with this, and we ended up finally going with Wirecast. But you can download. I think they've got trial software and things that you can test out.
Yeah, and there's even free software. It wouldn't be in HD or anything, but like Cam Twist for the Mac and ManyCam on Windows.
Yeah, those are great for if it's just simply like a one room setup or something. I would definitely recommend that. It's kind of hard getting into things like Skype and stuff. But anyway, what I was going to say is on our studio, we're kind of borrowing a little bit from Jupiter Broadcasting, jupiterbroadcasting.com. You can go to Steve over at the Tech Buzz. I mention him a lot because he's really been...
Oh, Steve, I've been watching his show for a long time. I really like what he does. And you can check out... I guess everyone has the...
yeah, probably. But it's the Tech Buzz, techbuzz.net. He's a really good testament on how to use Wirecast, He does some great tutorials. But there's a bunch of people you can check out. There's also Geek News Central, geeknewscentral.com. I mean, the list goes on. And really, I would definitely recommend that you guys probably, if they do a podcast, they probably have an IRC or they use Justin.tv or Ustream's chat room. Definitely go in there. And most people they're going to be subject to answering questions. Maybe, definitely don't. If anything, you can email them or send them a tweet or something and ask them how they do it and how they would recommend. And I know, 95, maybe 98% of podcasters will be willing to tell you how they do it because it's things that, I love watching podcasts. And that's one of the interesting things about podcasting is, I know some people, it's kind of a hard example, but I make podcasts, I produce them, but I also love watching other people's live streams and participating in their chat room when I have time. So, pretty cool. Like, I know some people who play baseball or soccer all the time, they don't want to watch baseball or soccer when they come home from playing baseball. But, podcasting's one of those interesting things. It's a great community, great thing to get involved with. Mm-hmm. And
it's always growing. There's always different categories. Like, it's not just people talking about tech and all of that. There's tons. Any category you're interested in.
And before we end the show, that's one of the great things is podcasting. If you have an idea and you get everything set up, Gary Vaynerchuk, I've been reading his book, The Thank You Economy. Really doesn't have anything to do with this, but interesting thing is his first book, Crush It, which was all about like succeeding with not only a business but anything you do online. It's a great book to read, no matter if you're thinking about doing a startup or podcasting. I mean, I took a lot of things that he said. He said that it's always, what does he say? He said it's always the, essentially, if you're passionate about something, people will listen. All right, so
Yeah.
And don't worry about the numbers, I mean, Jupiter Broadcasting, they may have, I think most of the time we have about, when I'm in there, they'll have 120, 140 people watching. When you really think about that, that's a lot for a web show. But, how many people...
That's 120 people that could be doing something else, but they enjoy...
That's exactly what you have to think about.
Watching and learning. Right?
Yeah. But, it's not... I can't really think of that quote. It's something like, it's not the... I can't remember. It's not the platform, but it's some... Anyway, essentially what he's saying is, as long as you have a passion to talk about it, and as long as you can... as long as you're passionate about it, and you can do 300 episodes about gadgets, or you could do 300 episodes about running or sports or whatever, do it. Because people will find you, they'll watch you, and if you do it right, and if you be yourself, people are going to watch. And I think one other thing, I've said this, which I think this is a little bit different, but, just because something works for Leo, just because he has a show called This Week in Tech, and he does a technology show, if technology isn't your niche, you don't need to do technology, I think a lot of people did this with Chris Perillo because he has thousands upon thousands of followers.
He was a big thing. Like I guess he still is a big thing. But I guess maybe back a few years ago, there was tons of people trying to do exactly what he did, and maybe it's possible that he got some more live broadcasts and stuff started. I got some more people interested in it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, how many of those people succeeded that tried to be Chris Perillo?
None.
Yep, exactly. And you see this now with some, there's a bunch of famous YouTubers and podcasters and things. Gary Vaynerchuk also said something like this, the next Steve Jobs will be nothing like Steve Jobs. The next Leo will have a totally different personality. The next, whatever, the next John Four Lakers, for example, won't like baseball. He'll be a PC guy or something. You know what I mean? I mean, it's going to be something that you can't, if you're not that person, you can't
be that person. Yeah.
Yep. And that's what I always try to encourage people. Jacob and I just sit here and be ourselves. Logan, he's himself when he comes on here. Just be yourself, and people will watch.
Yeah, just do what you like.
Erica, thank you for joining us. Show
no
went
problem.
Great.
I enjoyed being on the show.
I'd love to have you back on some days. Logan's saying his mom.
That'd be great.
His mom always told him to be himself. Also another guy. I always forget about this, but because Jason does this in a little bit different fashion because he's more of like a podcast coupled with really live stream. But if you have any questions about mixers, really one of the people I learned from almost 2 years ago is Jason McIntyre at macintech.net. I know you're pretty big. Yep. You're in there a lot with his IRC. Great place to go. I just remembered him.
There's tons of people there. Not only him, but the rest of his community. Yep. There's tons of people that can answer your questions and everything. Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure. As always, Eric is from TechZany.com, Twitter.com/TechZany. Pretty simple, Just remember TechZany. You can pretty much. I'm sure Google search will do that justice.
It's such a unique name. It comes up.
That's one of the good things. And remember, when you're naming your podcast, make sure search around.
Oh, that's a good tip. Yeah, for sure. Google search and try and find the name you're going to use somewhere.
Yep. It might be a random something or another, but hey, whatever. Anyway, you can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/ThatNickJones. Make sure to check out everything that we do. We do we do PB at night 3 nights a week. We do Tech Weekly on Saturday mornings. We do Gadget Gurus on Monday nights. And anyway, we also try to do some YouTube content, and we've got some more good news coming for you guys later. A couple more weeks, and we may be able to release some of those details. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. pbcasttv.com, twitter.com/pbcasttv, and of course, youtube.com/pbcasttv. Pretty much, it's the same way with TechZany. Nobody has anything that says pbcasttv, so if you find something on the web that says pbcasttv, that's ours. So, guys, thank you for joining us. And as always, I'm Nick Jones, and Eric, one more time, thanks for joining us.
Oh, yes.
One more thing, you can download, this episode, pbcasttv.com. But anyway, this is episode 38. So happy St. Patrick's Day, and to everyone watching, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you soon. So,
all right, see you later.
Yep. Eric, there's this thing that Jacob does. I don't do it near as well as he does, and he always says peace when he goes off air. So whenever he doesn't do the show, I try to. That's kind of like our staple, and I can't do it as well as Jacob because Jacob's like.
Oh, I've heard it. Yeah.
So until next time, guys. Peace. See ya.